so it's over 1,000
Okay.
square mile, or yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay, everybody, you guys are live.
And I'm back.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Did you guys need me to share the screen with the materials for today, or did you want to do that?
Yeah, I should be able to share the screen.
Okay.
Well, typically, so what we've got in store for everybody today is we've obviously met with Scranton PD and HR, and the goal of today's meeting, from my understanding, is to present to you guys the services and the process that we're proposing to implement with the police department. So as we go through this is obviously your time to ask questions, gather information, those types of things. So we want to make sure that that we've got time for that. And just as a quick show of hands, who on the phone has, or by voice, has seen any of the information we've provided? Is all brand new? Great. And Mr. Owens, Mr. Barron?
No, nothing. I have not.
Okay, perfect. So what I think we'll do is just start from the top and just kind of giving you a high level overview of the services that we're providing and what we're proposing to implement with Scranton Police Department. So as we go through this, I usually don't present on Zoom, so I'm going to give this a shot. Should be pretty straightforward, but if I can't see you, which typically when we're presenting in presenting mode, I'll just ask you if you guys could interject by voice versus raising a hand if you have a question or whatnot, because I probably won't be able to see you as we do that. So let me share my screen with you. Let's see. And so just as a quick introduction, again, my name is Greg Hyde. I'm the Vice President of National Testing Network. I've been with the company for just under 15 years. And so again, the goal today is just to present this information to you and allow you guys to ask questions. And Kelly is our Business Development Manager for Pennsylvania. And so she'll be helping to support through implementation and whatnot. So I'll go ahead and see if I can put this into slideshow. All right. And can everybody see the screen now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And do you guys also see the right-hand side with all of your faces on it as well? Or are you just seeing this? Okay, let me see if I can delete that. There we go. That works. Okay.
You're good.
Perfect. Good. All right. So I'm going to start by just giving you a high-level overview of the organization and the services we provide. We started our company back in 1981 as a pre-employment and promotional test development company for public safety occupations. And we focused our efforts on video simulation development. And what I mean by that is that the exams that we develop are developed in a video simulation format. And essentially what we've done is we've taken what would have been a paper pencil test one step further, and we've taken those questions and put them into scenarios that candidates actually see, and then they make their answer choices based on the choices we give them. And so what that does is it elicits an emotional response. It gives us an idea of how candidates are going to respond to these different situations that they'll be faced with. And it also gives candidates a preview of what the job is going to be like for those that haven't gone through a law enforcement academy or whatnot. So very effective exams, which we'll talk about here in a few moments. Then about 15, 16 years ago, we saw an opportunity to enhance the testing process for both departments and candidates. And so we focused our efforts on creating a candidate-centric testing model. And so today, our services, they begin with the development of a job posting. So we work with the department to build out a job posting that essentially provides candidates with everything you'd want an individual to see and know about your department. So your selling points, your minimum qualifications, all of those things go into this job posting that we build with you. From there, that job posting is used in joint recruitment efforts. So we have a pretty robust recruitment platform that is an added layer of recruitment support on top of what the department is already doing. So once we start recruiting and that job posting is shared with all those recruitment resources, we have candidates go to our website where they schedule their exam. So we manage that exam scheduling component. And then during this process, when they're registering on our website, we're collecting EEO information as well as basic candidate data. Also within our system and within our process, we do have a document uploader. And so what that is if the department requires certifications or transcripts, those types of things, documentation for veterans preference points, a candidate can upload those into the system within our document uploader, and then those documents carry on with that individual and their scores after they've tested. Then another big draw for organizations is exam administration, and we'll talk about the administration formats, which would be virtual as well as brick and mortar. And then we also provide all the scoring services, and then we have candidate support. So that support team is available via phone as well as web. And then we, on the back end of the whole process, we report out on scores, and clients have the ability to download their score reports and then enter those into their systems. So that's what kind of we're going to be discussing here in the next 20 minutes. And again, as we go through, I can't see you anymore. So if you have a question or want me to expand on something, just please let me know. So there's a couple of critical factors that differentiate our testing and recruitment model from the traditional department hosted testing, where a department leases a test from a third party, which is, I believe, what you guys are doing currently, and then administering that test through your resources. The first one is just comprehensive tests. And so as the candidate pools shrink, which we know they are, we have to get better and better at screening out those candidate pools. And so a lot of agencies will just use a cognitive test. And so for our law enforcement exam, we have reading and writing as part of our cognitive components. And then we go beyond that cognitive portion into human relations evaluation. And that's kind of what I briefly described with that video simulation component. The human relations component of the testing focuses on critical thinking aptitude, behavior traits and characteristics, and decision-making skills. So a lot of interaction type behavior traits and characteristics, whether it be with the team or with the public that your department supports. And then finally, we have our integrity and bias test. And so that's looking at implicit and explicit bias, cultural sensitivity, and race relations. So obviously very important in the line of work that we're talking about today as well. So beyond that, the other factor that differentiates what we're doing and talking about today is just getting the right people to test. And so this is where a heavy focus on recruitment comes into play with our organization. Our recruitment engine never stops. We have relationships with recruitment platforms, with community colleges, with a lot of different resources nationwide. And those relationships just keep feeding candidates into our pipeline. So we never stop the recruitment engine. And then while we're pushing all these candidates into our pipeline, we have to offer a lot of date, time, and location options to make it convenient for them to then get themselves into the testing process. And we'll talk about barriers and some of the challenges that department hosted testing has created inadvertently over the years, just as a tool. So I'm going to take a quick sip of water here and have you guys just kind of review these test components. On the left-hand side, you'll see the actual component of the exam. And then on the right-hand side, where I've listed the dimensions, those are the dimensions we measure and score out on so that you can see how people perform in each one of these areas. So ask yourself if this is the type of information you've been getting today. And if not, what might you be able to do with that as you evaluate candidates and move them into the interview process? Great. So as you look at these, obviously restraint and use of authority, we would want to know how an individual is going to, manage their emotions when there's, a critical situation rolling out in front of them. The team orientation, and then confrontation and enforcement initiative. These are all components that are obviously going to, if a candidate performs well in these areas on the job, it's going to represent your department well. If they don't, it can be major legal issues, public perception, and then public perception obviously impacts the ability to recruit people, for years to come. So bringing the right candidates in the first time is obviously what we want to do, and the ability to do so has long-lasting implications. I'm going to talk about the development.
If I could jump in real quick before you move on.
Yeah, you bet.
If you could go back to the previous slide.
Yeah.
So have you done any sort of analysis to see if the dimensions that are being measured are really honestly bringing in candidates from all different backgrounds? Sometimes with these type of tests and not knowing the content of the test, you can sometimes unintentionally exclude people from moving forward because of their demographic, ethnic, racial, gender type of background. And I'm wondering if you've done any sort of assessment or review of that to see what the impact is.
We have, yeah. We've done extensive reviews on the front end, and we do annual reviews of our validation work as we do job analysis and transportability studies for other agencies that are coming on board. So I'm actually going to talk about development and validation. A lot of the development part of that is actually going to speak to your question. But to answer your question specifically, we develop our tests in a way that they are designed to create no adverse impact. We have variable scoring models. So I'm just going to jump through some of this here. I'll go back to validation in a moment. But we have customizable scoring models that are really designed to ensure that exactly the scenario you just said doesn't take place. So the tests are designed to ensure that regardless of your demographic, socioeconomic status, past status in law enforcement, we've designed it to make it fair across the board. So I can provide you with our validation summary, which will kind of give you, if you want to look at statistics and actually the measurement of how each candidate in class performed on the test, we can provide that to you. And we do have some of that information also in our scoring recommendations that we can send as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, but to answer your question, yes, it is like the one key thing we want to do with our testing, aside from obviously screen candidates. So that's the balance, is that we can't pass 100% of the candidates through, because we know that 100% of the people applying should not be in this role. So we have to make this tool obviously, somewhat challenging for people to pass, but at the same time that it doesn't impact different classes and socioeconomic status and that type of thing. So I'm going to go over validation and development really quick. So with the development of the exams, our staff, we have PhDs with their IO psychology degrees on staff. We have professional test developers, research analysts, data analysts, videographers, a whole team of people that develop these exams. And they take about 2 to 2.5 years to develop and several $100,000s. So on the front end, we're dumping a huge amount of science into the development. And then we're working with hundreds of subject matter experts across the country to ensure that the content of the exam is reflective of the job people are doing. So during the first phases of development, we work with those subject matter experts to rigorously define the job, and then ensure that the content that's going on the test reflects that the job candidates are applying for. And by doing so, we know that candidates won't walk away from one of our tests saying question 5, 18, and 21 didn't really relate to law enforcement, and then we're looking at a legal challenge. Every question is relative to the actual job they're applying for. Once the test is developed, we run the incumbents through criterion validation studies. And so what that is, for those of you who aren't familiar with content and criterion validation, is it's basically demonstrating that the candidate's performance on the test is predictive of the performance on the job. So as we have incumbents take this test, their supervisors are filling out a performance evaluation that correlates to those bullets that we just looked at on that last page. And so we can demonstrate that a candidate or an incumbent, a current officer who performed poorly, and I'll just use restraint and use of authority, their supervisor is also indicating that particular employee could use help or improvement in that particular area. And that's that relationship between the actual test and the job performance, which is criterion validation. So we have a summary of that, which we'll get to you guys after this meeting. So you can, it's not the full validation report, which is I think around 80 pages, but it really summarizes what departments are looking for with regards to validation and adverse impact. So any questions on that piece? All right, so we're going to jump into the process part of this now. So we'll be talking about the website first. For the candidate, this is a place for them to go and find public safety jobs. We have 80,000 plus people click on our website a month. So that's how much traffic our recruitment platform is getting monthly, is 80,000 potential candidates. Candidates go to our website, they create their account. This is where they schedule their test sessions. We also have candidate orientation material for them. So just information on what to expect the day of the test, you know, how to get a good night's sleep, those types of things. The test is designed to be given without study material. So this test is really, we're just looking to see how people react to these situations. We don't want, there's really no way to study for it because each individual is going to respond differently, obviously, because these are situational type questions. From there, we also have, like I said, we have the document uploader, the bias component. So the integrity and bias portion of the test is actually administered online without a human proctor. So that's the only component that is without a live proctor during the testing process. That test component is really structured more like a questionnaire, and candidates have an hour and a half to perform it and get through it. So they either do that while they're registering, or they do that in between their registration and when they actually take the test that's proctored by a proctor. We also have a personal history questionnaire, so a PHQ. It's really for departments who don't have one electronically in place or would just like to streamline the process and have candidates fill out their deep dive background investigation paperwork within our system. Something completely different we won't talk about today, but we do provide nationwide background investigation services as well. So that's something that we can continue to, you know, run through that process if the department wanted to use that type of a document. And then one of the biggest draws is test administration. So the candidates will take the test with NTN. And then on the back end, we provide support to candidates. I mentioned our support team is very well versed in the types of questions that candidates ask about our process and ask about our test. So we're really able to give them concise, clear information about what the next steps are, what to expect, and get them going through the process. So we manage those questions versus the department, which is again a time-saving piece for the agency. And then finally, candidates use their test scores to apply to multiple departments. So once a candidate's tested, they can then use that test score to apply to other agencies, either regionally or across the country. So that portion of it we'll talk about too in regards of who owns the test scores and those things. But the goal of this platform is to essentially make it easy for a candidate in, I'll use Los Angeles as an example, to apply for a department in Pennsylvania without having to jump on a plane and go through all those hoops. So that's the candidate side of the website. Now the department side is really a recruitment website. So we're heavily focusing on candidate attraction and department awareness within the candidate pool. So we work with hundreds of resources with regards to recruitment. Some of those also include career fairs, both in person and virtual, as well as the community colleges we work with. So we have relationships with criminal justice programs and fire science programs in the community colleges that do our testing for us. And so those departments within the college can also be a recruitment platform as well. Now, one of the biggest advantages of our agency is that, like I mentioned, our recruitment process is constantly going, and we're constantly testing for departments across the country. And those candidates who are testing, they can share their test scores with other agencies. So candidates will receive an email weekly. I actually took the test as a mock thing, so I get these emails weekly as well. But they get the email weekly from our IT team notifying them of other agencies who have joined the network and are accepting test scores. So from a law enforcement side of things, we've tested on average annually, we test right around 23 to 25,000 candidates on law enforcement. So all of those candidates would be getting notified that your agency is now accepting test scores. And so the larger agencies that we work with on the East Coast would be Washington, D.C. Metro. We're just onboarding, I believe it's Arlington County on the law enforcement side, Baltimore Police Department. So those departments are bringing in thousands of candidates. And so those individuals on the East Coast will see that your agency is also accepting test scores and make it easier for them to share as well. Also, candidates are notified when there's a similar job near them that they're applying to. So they get those notifications as well. So we really try to build as much visibility into the platform that we can, so that we can, show candidates who is actually accepting test scores in their region. The next piece here is test scheduling. So again, scheduling with us doing it means the department can reallocate those resources to focus on core competencies versus managing a task-oriented and transactional process of scheduling candidates to come test. And that also goes for test administration. So we manage all of that. And then when the department wants to look at their results, those results are available 24/7, and we provide access to our back-end scoring system. So when a department wants to pull results, they can pull that. They can download those into an Excel format and upload them into their applicant tracking systems. We have some directions on that. And then you can see from a reporting perspective how each individual ranks overall. But then if you click on their name, you'll be able to see those dimensions and how they perform in each dimension. So if a candidate passed and did well on everything, but you look at their dimensions and they might have done, had a red flag or a needs improvement in one of those dimensions, that's information you can pass on to your recruitment division who's doing the interviews, or the training division who's helping to train. So more information that you might have had in the past to be able to make better informed hiring decisions, which is what we're trying to do. If you were to sit in a meeting in our organization, you would hear us talk about barriers on a consistent basis. It's one of the goals that we set out with when we designed this quote unquote candidate-centric testing model. And so removing barriers is essentially we do that by providing unlimited testing options. So the ability to test any candidate anywhere. I'm not going to say at any time because we're not testing at 2 a.m. But it allows us to provide from coast to coast an effective nationwide screening platform for candidates to go in and conveniently get themselves tested for the departments we support. So you can see just by looking at these numbers, obviously, one agency is not going to be hosting 37,000 test sessions. And so it allows more candidates to be part of the process. And this ties back into any concerns that the department might have with regards to diversity, those types of things. Because if you were to think of a year of testing, right, and it's a circle, and if you were to shrink that down to 6 months, now we're at half a circle, and shrink it down more to 3 months, now we're a quarter of a circle. Not only, all candidates, regardless of socioeconomic, diverse status, those types of things, everybody, you're shrinking that candidate pool. So as we expand our testing, you're going to be able to see more of that. We've got some good statistics on how this process impacts diversity in a positive way, as well as female candidates. Let's see. I'm going to talk about administration here just briefly, as we've got a couple of different platforms now. Brick and mortar administration is exactly what that sounds like. It is candidates walk into one of we have 165, 170 plus facilities across the country. So when they register to take a test at a physical center, they would walk in, show their ID to the proctor and give them their phone, do all the things, and then be sat down at a computer to take their test. Now with virtual administration, it's similar when they do their check-in. We'll talk about that in a moment, but before they can actually schedule their virtual test session, candidates will go to our website, they'll click on virtual testing, they'll download an application from our system, and then that application's artificial intelligence runs through a series of checks to make sure that the candidate system can support the test that's going to be administered on their computer. What we need for that is Windows 10, Mac, headphones, webcam, and high-speed internet. So very common computer setup to be able to actually administer the exams. Once that system has gone through the series of checks, they can then schedule their virtual testing date and time. When they show up to test virtually, they again have this is my face discount card, they have their ID up to their face, and the department or the proctor will check them in. The candidate will pan their room with the webcam to demonstrate that there's one door, the doors are closed, there's nobody else in the testing area. Go over the desk, make sure that there's no recording equipment, writing equipment, all of those things. So I mentioned our tests take 2.5 years to develop, several $100,000. It's really, 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 really important to us that the testing process remains secure. So we have put in several measures within our virtual testing process to ensure that the testing is actually secure from just being able to see what the candidate is doing perspective. So when the candidate tests, then we have a visual of the candidate through the webcam, and we also have a visual of their desktop or system, and that application that they've downloaded is the same application they're using to administer the test. So our proctors can see if a candidate goes outside of the testing process for any reason, goes outside of that application, they can stop the testing process and go one-on-one with the candidate to find out what's going on. So those are the two administration formats. I think we tested right around 800 people in a weekend for a Calgary fire. Well, I know we tested it over a weekend, but I believe it was 800 to 830 candidates in one weekend virtually for one department. So again, it goes back to our testing is unlimited through this format and the resources that we have available to us. Couple more slides and then we'll wrap it up for some questions. Just going to briefly go over the benefits for candidates. It's a very easy place for them to find public safety jobs. Again, we want to build that candidate pool, so we need to make it easy and efficient and visible for candidates. We've made it very easy for them to schedule for one or multiple departments to share their test scores with. They've got the online portal that they can go into. They can check their results, and they can also complete process steps like that online test component that we mentioned. This is the support team that they've got access to. So rather than waiting for someone to call back from a department, they can reach us immediately, and then unlimited testing options. So it really goes back to the convenience factor. And then for the departments, we are driving higher qualified candidates. So through that testing tool, we're increasing quality by weeding out those who should not be in law enforcement. We're driving more diverse candidates, and I've got some good statistics here to share with you on diversity in a moment. The results are immediate, so your results will be ready in real time. They're available 24/7. And we talked about that more in-depth assessment, looking at the entire candidate versus just that cognitive piece, reading and writing. And then finally, we have no legal challenges. And so we go back to, and I'm glad you guys asked about the question about development and adverse impact, is because we can attribute the fact that we don't have legal challenges to how well the tests are developed and that they really do reflect the job people are applying for. So just a couple more slides now. I'm going to talk about show rate real quick. Show rate's been a big topic for the past couple of years. Our show rate after a candidate has registered to take our test is at 90%, 90%, compared to department hosted testing, where we've heard as low as 33%. But right around 60% is the average for department hosted testing. We have a couple of concepts that attribute to why ours is so much higher than the department. One is candidates. Most of the departments that we work with have candidates pay the fee to take the test. So we have a split fee model. One is the department fee and one is the candidate fee. The candidate fee to take the test is $55 for one department. And then once they've tested for one department, they can transfer their test scores to other departments for $12. So by asking candidates to put skin in the game, we're seeing an increase in candidates showing up to actually take the test. We're also seeing a decrease in candidates who play games with unemployment, showing and quote unquote demonstrating that they're seeking employment and registering for tests, but then not showing up to take the test. So those are the two reasons we see an increase in candidate show rate, as well as the convenience factor. So we're allowing candidates to pick their time and date instead of saying we're going to test once in Q4 on November 7th on a Saturday. We're saying you can test at any given date and time in Q4, and we'll be pulling our candidate or our list on December 1st or whenever it is you want to pull your list if you have a formal list pulling process. So that's candidate show rate. I'm going to tie this back. I'm going to jump back to diversity here in a moment, but I'm going to go to candidate satisfaction rate. It's at 98%. So 98% of the candidates that responded to the survey, which was right around 38,000 candidates responded to our survey last year after testing, they're indicating that they're happy with this model. The reason that they're happy with the model is because of the convenience we provide. They don't have to take time off work or miss vacations or travel across town to test for multiple departments throughout the year. Instead, they can just share their test scores via our system. And then they also have the ability and the convenience to schedule their first exam that meets best with their schedule. So that's candidate satisfaction. I'm going to talk about diversity here real quick. So we did a study of 20 departments that were leasing our tests and administering those tests with their resources, similar to what the department does currently with the test you're using. And we had those 20 departments shift their model over to what we've been talking about today, where we do the job posting, recruitment support, administration, all those things. And what we found was that out of those 20, 18 of them showed an increase in diversity for a total of 176% increase in diversity. And so this next slide here will demonstrate kind of year over year what the impact on diversity looks like. So as an organization, if you're, you have, diversity goals, EEO goals, those types of things, you're really going to be taking a step towards reaching those goals by adopting this process. And what's exciting for us is we didn't know this was we had no idea this was going to be the result of our candidate-centric testing model, but it is a really, really positive result in that we're changing the composition of the candidate pool with the model that we put in place. Why are we getting more diverse candidates? How are we doing that? The answer is unlimited year-round testing. So there's zero barriers for candidates now to get into the process. The other portion of that is we have test centers in highly diverse populated areas as well. And we're testing for large organizations that also have highly diverse populated areas. So we're really excited about that piece. Now we'll talk about the fees. And so I'm going to go over this, and then I'm probably going to, I think this is, getting started. So I'll probably stop after this, and I'll be able to see you and we can have a discussion and answer questions. So remind me, how many incumbents does the department have? How many sworn officers? Was it 146? No. Does anybody know on the phone?
147.
147. Okay, I was one off, not bad. So for a department with 147 incumbents, sworn officers, you'd be looking at either $750 for the entire year of testing and everything that we've talked about. And that would be if you left your job posting open with us for 6 months or more. The majority of the departments that join do have their job posting open long-term because of the benefits we just talked about, not shutting things down so that candidates can continue to get themselves in the process. Some departments can't do that. And so we do have a short-term membership fee, which is $1,000. That still applies to a year. So if you were to say, look, Greg, we're not comfortable leaving this thing open all year round and having, civil service pull a list once a quarter. We want to open it and then shut it down. And if we have more needs, we'll open it again and then shut it down. If we do that, you're not going to pay more than $1,000 over the course of the year. Meaning, if we open a job posting for you in October and close that in November, and you came back to us in March and said, "Hey, Greg, we've got another opportunity. We need to start recruiting again." Great. We're going to open that back up in March. We'll keep it open for however long you need it. We'll shut it down again in June. If you come back, we need to do it again. We'll do it again, but it doesn't cost the department more money to do that. It's just a flat fee for the whole year. So those are the fees. I'm going to say one more thing on candidate pricing is that, now I can see you guys again. It's better. Is that we have a hardship program that's available to departments to use. And so what that is, it basically mirrors state assistance. So if a candidate can demonstrate that they meet state food, childcare assistance, they would take that same documentation, provide it to the department, and the department would provide them with a voucher to go test. And then we would bill the department for that voucher after testing has taken place. Of the 70,000, 65,000 candidates we test each year, less than 0.5% even apply for that voucher. Again, candidate convenience is really taking over with regards to what's most important. So candidates don't come and complain about the testing fee. There's an option for them to apply for this, but we see it very, very few candidates even apply. The other thing I'll mention on candidate pricing also is the department can opt to pay the candidate fee of $55, or the department can opt to pay half the fee. So those are options as well. And then the last option is if the department wants to offer a free test at your facilities, so this would be similar to what you're doing now, is you would administer our test, is we would set your facility up in our system as a testing location, and that would be a free location for candidates to test. And then you'd be able to offer that to local candidates, or candidates can choose to test at their convenience and not on the day, time, and location that the department specifies. So does all of did I confuse everybody with all of that? We've got multiple models because we've had multiple departments want different things when it comes to candidate pricing. So we want to just get that out on the table that the majority, again, I would probably say 97 to 98% of the departments we work with run a traditional model where the department pays their fee, the candidates pay their fee. So any questions on any of the information that we just went over? I know.
I have a couple.
Yeah, good. I know it was a lot of information and I can talk fast too. So.
Very helpful presentation. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for putting it on for us.
Yeah.
Just wanted to walk through, I know you just gave us a lot of information, so I just want to get myself straightened out here, just kind of practically applying it to what we kind of typically do here than what might be different. We have a request right now to give an entry police exam in Scranton. How we typically would do it is, we would get that request, we use a company that's kind of in Pennsylvania here, and then what we do is we would put a notice in the Scranton Times. People would come and sign up in person for a 2-week period, and then the written exam would be given at a physical facility. So say right now, if we decided to go with this testing company, National Testing Network. So just would step one be how does the sign up process work, and then the testing date just for the written exam? So say we decided we voted to go with you, would we give you a check for would it be $750, and then we're enrolled with you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll walk you guys through that real briefly too. So if you said tomorrow, hey, we're ready to move forward, this is what we want to do, we'd say, great, we're excited to work with you. And then we would just ask for general contact information. So name, title, PO number. It's essentially information we're going to put on an order form. And then that gets sent to our client services team. And so our client services team, within 24 hours of getting that form, will reach out to you with all the sign up paperwork. Sign up is really easy. We've been doing this for 15 years. So we've done it the hard way, and we've learned our lessons. And so we've really streamlined this paperwork process. so that there's not a lot of hoops to jump through. It's very straightforward and very well outlined in terms of who's going to be doing what within the process.
Okay.
And with that is the job posting template. So we send you a template for information we need to build the job post. Usually it takes departments a week to 2 weeks to get the information back to us. We can turn this within a day or two. It's the department that we're asking for information on that will sometimes slow down that process. So if you're really wanting to hit this hard, we would just work with you and obviously continue to remind you like, hey, where's the information? But
yeah,
we would try and do that as quickly as possible. If there's not a rush, sometimes departments take a month to fill out this paperwork. It's really the department need. Once that's done, the department's invoiced. So you'll get your invoice for $750. And then we post the job. So we post the job based on when you want the job posted. And then everything we've been talking about starts. So what the department—
I just stopped you right there. When you say post the job, does that like where do you post the job? Is it based on information we give you? Like, is it in a local paper? Is it on the Scranton website? Or is it just through your website?
Yeah, so it'll be on our website, which if you guys haven't gone to our website, has anybody looked at our website yet? It's okay if you haven't.
I haven't, I'll admit.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to share it with you really quick, but if it'll be posted on our website, which again is a recruitment platform, but it'll also be shared with all of our social media resources and other recruitment platforms. So again, you would do the same thing you're doing today. You'll take that job posting or whatever job information you want to share with I wrote it down as at the Times. Your local recruitment.
Yes, correct. Yeah, Scranton.
Yeah, so you would keep doing everything you're doing today from a recruitment perspective. We're going to add the extra layer on top of it. So you're going to have us and you recruiting, which is where we want more candidates. Obviously, we're having.
Okay.
So that's what would happen with that job posting. So I'm going to share this really well. Yeah, I'll share my screen with you guys real quick. See if I can do this again. We did it right the first time. Are you there? Can you guys see that now?
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll just pull open Chandler Police. This is in Arizona, but this is what their job posting would look like on our website. So it has the salary, the incentive, specialties, mission statement requirements, all of those things. So that's the information we gather from you. And then that information is used in advertising as well.
Okay.
So,
okay. So then I guess just if we keep moving forward, the post is up, and then does that job posting continue for we usually have a limited 2-week sign up period, and then our tiebreaker is actually the time of sign up. So that's why we kind of do it like that. That's in our rules and regulations. So is that something, do you guys limit the sign up period for a certain amount of time, and the applications just go right through your website? Because we always just did physical applications. So that's something we're interested in, obviously moving it, into the 21st century here.
Yeah. Yeah. And so does your applicant tracking system now have electronic applications incorporated?
No, we don't. We have people come in directly into either the police headquarters or, right into City Hall, basically sign in a form, date and time their signature, then just hand in a physical packet.
Okay. And I'll see if I can get you an example of the application information they provide that is general, because we do have that PHQ also, which is the in-depth.
Yeah.
But the general application is collecting past work history, address, your general information you'd see on a one-page application.
Yeah.
So that can be used moving forward. With regards to the 2 weeks, so that ties into, it's up to you how long you want to keep that window open. The longer the better. And we won't beat that horse more, but the longer the better in terms of quality, quantity, and diversity. So we work with hundreds of departments in Ohio, and Ohio is very civil service driven. And a lot of civil service agencies will change their rules to enable us to recruit and test longer. So that is something, if you have that capacity to do, that would be something I would really recommend, especially when we're in this tight tight market right now for law enforcement candidates.
Okay.
So if you stuck with your current plan, what we would do on that job posting and all the recruitment efforts is we would say, the deadline to register to test is here. The deadline to test is this. So meaning if October 1 is your deadline to register, they've got to be, the registration closes October 1. You could also have October 1 be the same close date for testing, or you could have them test through November. And then at that point, once you get to that date where you're closing everything down from testing and everything else, you would go into our system, pull your score report, and that score report would then be used in that hiring process. So if that's something that's repeated multiple times during the year, that's what would happen.
Yeah. And then just when candidates sign up, is there a particular cost that's passed on to the candidates? Is it like a certain price per candidate?
Yeah, so for the candidate, when they register to do all of this,
Yeah.
in our system, it's $55 for the candidate. Yeah.
Okay. And then just so when we give the written exam, obviously we usually do it like, we would set a Saturday morning, we have them come right in and take a test at a physical location. I know you mentioned it could be done throughout a period of time. I guess that's not, I don't know how specific our rules are, whether it has to be done like that or whether it can just be done, through a certain quarter. Is there also an option where you guys just do like a test one day, like online, or is it kind of just open for the quarter?
We would keep it open. We can't, because we support, you can see 532 law enforcement departments, 850 fire departments. And so all these departments are funneling candidates to test.
Yeah.
So having testing, we can't just allocate or attribute resources to one agency for that process. We basically say, if you want to test for Scranton Police Department, you have to have your test completed by November 1st.
Okay.
And then between now and November 1st, any interested candidate would be able to get themselves in. Because again, we don't want to do that one day thing because it just limits the ability.
Yeah. I'm trying to.
Yeah, I know it's all different. So we have as much patience as you guys need. We understand that you're looking at a different model. So we really do understand that.
Yeah, I'm trying to. So then our next steps, I think that explains kind of the written exam steps. The next steps that we do here, that testing company we used here would give a physical agility exam, and then we also do oral exams. So those are the three parts of the test. Is that something your company does? Do they do any part of physical agility test?
In some states we do. In Pennsylvania right now, we do not do physical agility testing. What test do you guys use and who do you run through?
It's our Pennsylvania Chiefs of Police, and they usually send someone up from, down in Harrisburg. We're in Scranton, it's about 2 hours away, and then they're down there. It's usually one or two guys who do, what's necessary under I think the Pennsylvania, rule to pass a physical agility exam to be part of the Scranton Police Department. And then once they pass physical agility, then they move on to oral exams, which Pennsylvania Chiefs set up, and they come up and they do that as well. Do you guys do any part of oral exams? Or?
We do, yeah. In fact, we're just getting ready to launch within the next month, I think. Yeah, within the next month. Actual recorded oral exams. So we're taking the most commonly asked questions that are given through oral boards, and candidates are basically doing what I'm doing with this webcam. They're providing that answer via webcam, so that information is also attached to the candidate. That's not quite ready yet, but in the future, that is something that we will have available. Yeah. Okay. So, but today it is not something we would be. Yeah. So, but within the next month to 2 months, it would be. Yeah,
that's helpful. And then just with regard to the time period, I was trying to think practically. So,
yeah,
is it when people sign up? Say we put a notice in the paper and we were going to go with you guys saying, November 1st is signups, and signups are closed by, I don't know, say we amended our rules and we say by December 31st. Then from the minute they signed up, November 1st. Would they have to complete their test by, say, like, would that be like, I don't know, January 31st or something like that? Is it a 3-month period?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could pick your time frame, but yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So you can say, you have to register, you have to,
Yeah.
what typically we'll do is just we'll say testing has to be complete by this date.
Yeah.
So sign up period and testing period kind of become one.
Yeah.
And you have to register, you have to have your test done by this time.
And then by January 31st, say the last person takes their test January 31st, is that scored almost like instantly? Is it just because it's online? Is it scored pretty instantly? Or?
Yeah, so
Okay.
anyone taking the test online, their test score is going to be automatic. As soon as they finish that survey, if they opt to take the survey, their test scores will be in the system. And so what you can see with the system too is kind of nice. You can actually see who's tested, how many candidates you've tested. So let's say your process is from November through December. You can look at, December 1st, you can say, oh, well, we've tested 58 candidates and we still have 122 signed up in December to test. So you can kind of see how many candidates are coming into your pipeline and who is also tested. And then when your last day of accepting test scores passes, so let's say January 2nd is the day that you're going to pull your score report. That's where you would go into our system. You would download that score report, that candidate information, and then that's what you would use moving forward, just like you do now when you send your results to the agency you're working with and they send you their scores back. Very similar to that. You would just have those scores. Yeah.
Okay. And then just for the online application sign up process, I think you mentioned this, but people can upload documents as part of that process. Then would we get those applications? Like, we would be able to get copies of those, just because we have people like they submit their DD 214 for veterans preference, they submit legacy preference, they also fill out, I don't know if the background check is exactly part of that, but that's something later on. But anyway, there's a couple documents that they fill out and they could upload those, or?
Yeah, yep. All of that can be uploaded in the document uploader and attached to that candidate file. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is get everything in one spot for you guys.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. We have a lot of it floating around a couple different spots, so we're just trying to narrow it down, so and speed up the process, because the process is taking us some time now. It's taking months, a year to get a one test done and get a list. So that's what we're interested in doing. That's pretty much all the questions I have. I don't know if anyone else does.
I have a quick question. Can you tell us a little bit about how long you've been in the East Coast and how successful you've been outside of the DC, Baltimore, because those are obviously very large metropolitan areas, in recruiting people and having people sign up?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'll give you a tale of our sales efforts. So like any organization that's expanding, we have to start somewhere. So our expansion started on the West Coast, which is where our headquarters is in Washington. So we had rapid expansion on the West Coast, and then we've continued to move east. We've been strategic about hiring retired police chiefs within our organization to help network and market our company. Furthest east, the real big successes right now are in Ohio, Illinois are the two, and that's obviously not on the seaboard, but there are, and I'll just be real transparent here, there are relationships with police chiefs associations that have been in place for 20 years that are challenging, to say the least, to get the attention of police and the associations within some of the states that we're targeting. They were, and I can go on and on about this, but there are major alliances. And for those of you who are on the phone, if you've been in the law enforcement industry for a while, decades of doing things the same way. And so now we're coming with this new process and this new approach. And so we're trying to undo decades of the same process that was set up by one particular vendor years and years ago. And so to answer your question is, we are targeting Maryland right now. We're targeting Pennsylvania. Connecticut is also on our list. Florida has some state specific stuff that they have to run through IO Solutions, which is another competitor. It's a statewide test that they have to take. And then there's a lot of DOJ challenges in the states of New Jersey and New York in particular. So We are focusing our efforts, started last year, and it'll continue for 5 more years on the East Coast. But it'll look very different in 4 years from now, our footprint on the East Coast, based on the traction we're getting already. So oftentimes we'll see big departments join because of the ability to support big numbers. And then those smaller departments around those larger departments will join because the recruitment's almost already done for them. So an example is Ohio. 5 years ago, we maybe had 5-10 clients, and now we have well over 100 on the law enforcement side.
Thank you.
You bet. Yeah, good question. And it's a fair one. Yeah, so.
I have one more because I'm a pain. Just practically, and just kind of practical questions. I'm doing the exams. When people pass or fail their written exam that you guys give, do they get a score out of 100? Do they get a final score like that, like a 79 or an 86 or something like that? Because
yeah, they get their passing score. It doesn't mean a whole lot because agencies set their pass point in different.
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to make sure that, because I know you said like there was a video simulation and stuff, and I just wanted to make sure like that all gets scored, and out of all those get added like together basically, and you get something out of 100. Is that what it goes? Because I think
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
we have a minimum passing score of 70, then the written score gets weighted versus the oral score. So I just wanted to make sure we got a number there. And that's but then thank you again for the presentation. Thank you.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else, Captain Lukasevich.
Yeah, following up on that. So does each section have a passing score, or is it just the overall test?
We have a recommended pass at each section, and then, but there's the overall recommended pass point. So what we would recommend doing is meeting with our client services team during implementation, which they do with every client, and kind of going over what the recommended scores are and whether or not we would want to change any of those scores to obviously address, adverse impact, volume. So we don't want to screen out too many candidates, obviously, but we want to make sure that we screen out the ones that shouldn't be wielding, guns and those things. So we need to do our job, but at the same time, we can adjust those pass points to meet those different criteria or goals that the city might have.
Okay.
But yes, we can adjust those. Yeah.
All right. How many times can they take the test in the testing period?
That's a great question. So they can retest every 3 months. Okay. The test is video simulation. So, and the test is 2 hours and 20 minutes. So there's no way a candidate's going to go in and memorize a video simulation test with 4 answer choices for each question and what was happening in those questions. Additionally, the test is scrambled when it's administered electronically. So a candidate sitting next to me taking the test, question 17, is not going to be the same question 17 that I've got. So candidates are not told how they perform in those dimensions. So those bullet points that we looked at, just the components. So components would be human relations, law enforcement, human relations, reading and writing is what they would be the areas that they'd see how they performed. But the department and we see how they perform in those different dimensions. So a candidate who didn't pass is going to go back and they're going to overthink the test. And they oftentimes will do worse when they retest because they don't have that detailed information about excessive use of force or teamwork that they need to improve upon. So when they test, they're also told that they need to, obviously approach it with how would you respond? Give us your best answer. So they did that the first time. Now they're going back and testing the second time, and they second guess themselves all over the place. So the studies we've done show that there's a decrease in performance with multiple test taking.
Okay, but so the short answer there is once every 3 months.
Once every 3 months, yeah.
All right. Now, if we do the short-term testing, it's $1,000.
Correct.
Now, is that just for the police department doing it? Or if we have, like if the fire department wanted to come in, that would be another $1,000, correct?
Yeah, it's per discipline. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I know you mentioned you were just starting on the eastern half of the country. Do you have any departments in Pennsylvania that are using you right now?
Yeah, let me look at our. I know we do on the fire side. We have both Philly and Pittsburgh have worked with us in Pennsylvania. Berks County Sheriff right now is doing law enforcement testing in Pennsylvania. Yep.
And do you also do promotion testing?
We do. We have shelf product promotional exams that mirror the format of the video simulation exams for entry level, but they're specifically for obviously supervisory skills. And then we have, again, a team of biopsychologists that develop our assessment centers, custom book reference exams, those, more custom processes that you would use in a promotional process.
Okay.
You bet.
All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Good. Thanks, Dennis. Other questions, concerns, feedback? Nope. All right. What information, like I mentioned at the beginning, we are happy to send that validation information to you all. What other information would be helpful in your evaluation? The presentation, you guys, I will also get in a PDF format, so it's not a huge document, but anything else that you guys want to see outside of what you haven't already?
No, I don't think so. I think, that was a great presentation. Yeah, if you wanted to send the presentation and the validation information, and we'll take a look at that.
And if you guys would like to talk to any references, we can certainly reach out to some mid-sized references. I could ask for Ohio and Illinois, and anyone else on the East Coast. We can look at Virginia, anywhere else that we can provide a couple of references for you. We'll get that information to you if you would like it. But let us know if that's something you would like. Obviously, we tap our references frequently because we add a new client every day. So that's our pattern this year so far. So other questions, feedback, concerns? Oh, great. Well, we appreciate it. And we know you guys have some stuff to talk through and think about. And I know it's a different process. So thanks again for listening. And it was nice to meet everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen, for helping set it up. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.